Okay, I have a drash in English and Spanish. My English one is going to be more free from my head, but the Spanish one is a translation of a written version. I'm going to do the Spanish one first. It's going to be shorter, okay? En la Parshat Shelach leemos, Shelach lecha anashim, envía para ti hombres. Números 13:2. Sorry, can't translate that very quickly. Shelach significa enviar. De esta misma raíz viene Shaliach, el enviado. Moshe fue enviado. Los profetas fueron enviados. Yeshua fue enviado. Y nosotros, el pueblo de Israel, también somos enviados. Ustedes son linaje escogido, real, sacerdocio, nación santa. Primero Pedro 2:9. I think that's also, yeah, right there. Los 12 espías que Moshe envió no eran hombres comunes, eran nasiim, líderes respetados, justos al ser elegidos, pero 10 fracasaron, no porque fueran una mala elección, sino porque el miedo venció a la fe. Se olvidaron de quién los había enviado. Moshe cambió el nombre de Hosea a Yehoshua, añadiendo la letra Yud, una oración por protección divina. Así como los conversos toman un nuevo nombre hebreo que refleja su nueva identidad. El cambio de nombre de Yehoshua marcó su llamado espiritual. Apocalipsis también nos dice que un día recibiremos un nuevo nombre ligado a nuestro propósito eterno. Hoy, cada uno de nosotros es un shaliach, un enviado. Somos líderes en nuestros propios círculos, familia, comunidad, trabajo. Hemos sido enviados para traer luz, y esa luz es la Torah. No solo con palabras, sino con nuestras acciones. Mis padres rara vez decían te amo, pero lo vivían. Nunca lo dudé. Así también, nuestra vida debe reflejar nuestras convicciones, porque el mundo está lleno de muros, de sospechas, malentendidos y falsedad. Y muchos observan cómo representamos a nuestro pueblo, nuestro Dios y nuestro Mesías. En un bat mitzvah reciente, conocimos a un anciano sefardí que estaba solo. Tuvimos una conversación cálida y respetuosa. Fue amable y admiró a nuestros hijos. Luego él mencionó algo que lo había molestado profundamente: los Jews for Jesus, judíos para Jesús. No lo dijo con suavidad. Se sintió traicionado por ellos. Yo no discutí. Sabía exactamente a qué se refería, porque había visto su sitio website. Allí claramente enseñaban a los judíos a comer cerdo y a participar en prácticas paganas. Eso no es Torah. Eso no es luz. Eso es confusión y compromiso con lo mundano. Después, durante Yom Kippur, un hombre visitó nuestra congregación. Había pasado Rosh Hashanah con Chabad. Dijo que nuestro servicio no le gustó, que era muy largo y repetitivo, pero no fue solo crítica, se fue reprendiéndonos. No fue una experiencia pacífica. Ser enviados no siempre significa ser bien recibidos. Pero no estamos llamados a ser populares. Estamos llamados a ser fieles. Apocalipsis 14:12 dice, aquí está la perseverancia de los santos, los que guardan los mandamientos de Dios y la fe de Yeshua. Y esta perseverancia no es para aplastarnos, es para refinarnos. Yehoshua y Caleb fueron los únicos de su generación que entraron a la tierra prometida, no por ser más fuertes, sino por mantenerse firmes en la verdad. Así también, si caminamos con valentía, verdad y humildad, nuestro impacto puede llegar mucho más lejos de lo que imaginamos. El verdadero fruto de nuestra misión no son uvas ni higos, son las vidas que influenciamos, nuestros hijos, nuestros amigos, nuestra comunidad, aquellos que, gracias a nuestra fidelidad, encontrarán su camino de regreso a la luz. No estamos solos. Caminamos en los pasos de los fieles. Somos enviados, pero jamás abandonados. Okay, now for the English. Shelach, that's the name of a Torah portion. Children, what does Shelach mean? Send. It means send. Just the word send. Shelach lecha is send for yourselves or to yourselves. And so the word shalach means send, or it's a command form. Okay? It means like send, like do this, send. And then from this word shalach, we have the word shluchim. And the Chabad emissaries, the word for emissary is shluchim. So what do you think shluchim means? Sent, the ones who are sent, right? And in the Brit Hadashah in the New Testament, we call that word in English what? Apostles. Apostles. Have you heard that word? Like Apostle Paul. Have you heard that word? You have? Have you guys heard? Okay. They haven't had very much exposure to Christianity, I guess. So we say, Christians in the New Testament, it says in English, we call it apostles, okay? So in Parshat Shelach, the Torah describes the selection of the 12 spies, meraglim, sent out to scout the land of Canaan. It's very interesting how they were chosen. First of all, it says, as Yoshiyahu was saying, send for yourself. And the sages, they say, and so the English is going to be much more longer and involved than the Spanish. Spanish is just very short, okay? In the English, they say that it says send for yourself because it wasn't God necessarily that wanted them to do this, but it was the people who wanted this. The people wanted to see what they were going up against. Sometimes that's not a very helpful thing. Sometimes it's better to go in blind because then you don't realize how big of a challenge it is. Right? When you size it up, you kind of see what it all entails. Not to say that it's not a good thing to see ahead of time, what you're going to face. But our sages do say that it was the people who requested this, not necessarily God. Okay. Now, the criteria, it says that there should be one man, and each and every single one of them has to be rich, and have a high degree, right? No, it didn't say that. You guys were not paying attention. You guys, children, let me say that joke again one more time, okay? The Torah says that the people that you select to go before you to scout out the land, they have to be rich and have high college degrees, right? No, right. Okay, what does it say? They had to be leaders from every tribe, right? They weren't just ordinary people, but they didn't have special pedigrees in terms of material things or things that man would look at, but they had to be already established leaders. They had to have spheres of influence, right? And so I'd like to say that we have been criticized several times for, in our congregation, for number one, not having college degrees in Judaism, and also pointing for our congregation leaders who also weren't, quote unquote, properly trained. And to that, I would like to say that we choose people the same way that Hashem chose people here. We choose people to be leaders of our congregation because we already see that they are leaders of communities. Mora Ezra was already a leader of his community back home where he came from before he moved to America. Why should we not recognize him as a leader here? Rav Atzalyahu had already, he was already appointed a leader by Hashem as he was ministering to the Jews and Messianics in the prisons where he went to faithfully every single week. Why should we not recognize him as a leader in our community? Rav Safa has many years of wisdom, and we continue to pray for him right now because not only does his family need him, his wife and his daughter need him to be there for him, but we also in our community, we need him. We appreciate and we rely on his wisdom and his guidance for our community. And so this is how we appoint our leaders at Benei Avraham. And other people may not understand, but I do believe that this is Hashem's pattern. He sees people that already have leadership qualities and he appoints them. The Nasis were there most likely because they were older in years, and through their years of experience, they showed themselves to be wise leaders who were able to give wise wisdom to the people, to their communities that they were a part of. Okay, next point is that when they were chosen, they were from the tribes, right? There was a representative from each tribe, and I believe that's also important for us here. I also believe that's important for why we need to exist, because there are not many congregations out there who are both faithful. We're not perfect. I didn't say we're perfect, but we try to be as much as we can faithful to the Torah and Judaism and the people of Israel, but also have the faith of Yeshua. And so we represent a tribe, so to speak, not an actual literal tribe, but a specific community with specific traits, right? We are that community. We are that community that I believe Yeshua always wanted to have around since his day, a people that kept his faith, but also the commandments of God, the Torah. And so Moshe personally selected these men and he gave them instructions and what to do. Also notably, this is when the sages say that Hosea was renamed to Yehoshua. I say the sages say because I don't know that was the first time that he was called Yehoshua, but that's what the sages say. So I'm going to go with that. And this signified that he had a role change, a leadership change, and that he was entrusted and protected by God. That's what the Yud, instead of his name just meaning simply salvation, it also, it now meant Hashem's salvation, not just any salvation. He represented Hashem's salvation because of the work that he was about to do for Israel. And converts also, when a convert becomes a Jew and he takes that covenant of Torah on, They also take a name change. I took a name change, and it represents my new identity and my new relationship to the Jewish people so that I can be easily identified as a Jew. Mine. Oh, that's a Hebrew name. Other Jews know that is a Hebrew name. You must be Jewish or related to Judaism somehow. It's very important in Judaism to have that name change. And in Revelation, there's another name change that will transpire. I believe perhaps in the world to come, if not in the Messianic era, we will also be given again new names, which we do not yet know. Okay. Now, the the shluchim were sent. Messengers, aka angels, are also sent. Moshe, the prophets, Yeshua, these were all sent. We, as the nation of Israel, are sent. We are sent to the nations as a royal priesthood. We are all leaders of tribes, which means that we are leaders of our own spheres of influence. We are set to be light to the nations. This is why I tell all my children, I don't, when my children, I actually let them have social media before they turn 18. And as especially in the homeschool circle, they don't want their children to be on social media before 18, but I actually want them to be on social media before they turn 18 because I want to see how they're going to start representing themselves on social media. And I want to guide them in that action. I want to make sure that when they represent themselves on social media, they know they're not only representing themselves, they're representing their families, they're representing Hashem, they're representing all Jewish people, right? Not just on social media, but when we go out. This is why we're Jews are very careful about how do we dress, not that how we dress is everything. Of course, the inside is first, but the first appearance to everyone is going to be how you look, right? Everyone says don't judge a book by its cover, but everyone does. Everyone judges the book first by its cover before they read it, right? The same thing with our dress. Also our social media accounts, okay? All right, so we have to be very careful of the way that we present our people and our God. Not only how we represent our people in terms of being light, but we also have enemies on every side. There are enemies around us as tall as the walls of Jericho and as giant as the people of Jericho that would try to prevent us from accomplishing our mission. And sure, we can be talking about, Hamas and, leftism or something like that, that want to, change our ways and destroy us off the face of the earth and things like that. But there's also more subtle enemies than that, okay? We recently went to a bat mitzvah in Colorado, and there was one, it was like a Reform Reconstructionist type of synagogue. And there's only one Sephardic Jew there. There's only one Jew of color, that was a member over there. So I started talking to him. He was an old man. He had no family, and we had a wonderful time talking about our shared faith. He was very impressed with my children, and then we got to talking about the one thing that he could not tolerate, and that was Jews for Jesus. And he told me that there was a group of them that were coming to their synagogue for a while. And because they are Reform Reconstructionists, they're very tolerant of many things. But what they were not tolerant of is the Jews for Jesus group proselytizing to them. And I did not disagree with him. Many people there knew that we were Messianic, but I didn't go into that with him. I only wanted to agree with him because I do agree with him. I do not like Jews for Jesus. And I hate it when people try to identify us as Jews for Jesus, or for example, on Google Maps, we're listed as a Messianic synagogue and they try to change, someone keeps on trying to change our category to church. They're church. I'm like, no, stop it. We are not a church. We are a Messianic synagogue. We are not Christians. We're really not Christians. We are Jewish. We follow Judaism, but we believe in Yeshua. There's a difference. In contrast, Jews for Jesus, when I visited their official website, they were teaching right on their official website that Jews, you know what? Jesus, he made all meat clean. You can eat pork now. It's okay. You can do pagan things like whatever, Halloween, Christmas, whatever. You can do, it's okay now. You're freed. There's a song that we're going to sing, that we're going to play for the wedding tomorrow. It's Ani Chofshi, meaning, Yeshua set us free. That doesn't mean he set us free so that we can sin. And transgression of the Torah is sin. He set us free to walk in the Torah. He set us free to walk in God's ways, because before that, we were slaves to sin. We were slaves to our evil inclination, to Satan. Okay. There was another man who came. Another man, he came to keep Yom Kippur with us. And he told us about how he spent Rosh Hashanah with Chabad. So I thought, oh, he's going to love us. If he's willing to spend Rosh Hashanah with Chabad, he's going to like us too, right? So he stayed the whole entire day with him, and Reuben did a very traditional service, the whole entire Yom Kippur. He did like the whole thing, the whole entire book, I think. And he stayed for the whole entire service. So we thought that he was fine with it. And then at the very end, he broke the fast with us during Yom Kippur. After he had some of our food, he started rebuking us and started saying, "How dare you follow this door? Why are you doing exactly the same thing as Chabad is doing? You're Messianic." Yeshua said, don't say long and vain, repetitious prayers. And we're like, these are not too long for us, and they're not repetitious to us. We only say them once on Yom Kippur, you know? And when I had asked Reuben at times, how come we don't just do a shorter version? So sometimes he does a shorter version, sometimes he does a long version. Reuben's like, what else do we have to do in Yom Kippur? We're fasting. It's not like we have a lot of energy to do a lot. What's wrong with praying all day, and saying the whole prayers? Anyway, so he left very upset with us. I was offended that he stayed and he ate all of our food and then he rebuked us. But anyways, huh? It was I don't know, he was some Christian that came to visit us. I don't think he was Jewish, but he didn't want to what? He didn't want to pay the bill. Yeah, he ate our food and then complained about it afterwards. It's like, why did you stay the whole day anyways? So I feel like these are some of our spiritual sort of attacks that kind of bring us down. Experiences like this, they can discourage us, and they can make us feel like, oh, maybe we're doing something wrong, maybe we're not doing the right thing. There's another person from Chabad this time who was threatening one of our members, calling him a fake Jew, told him to stop using a Hebrew name. He's not a real Jew, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And, Reuben and I were talking this morning about how we could move to Israel right now. We know how. Reuben has a job in Israel, his headquarters is in Israel. We could move there right now and convert. We would have to do a gir l'chumra, another conversion, to stay there without having to. If you don't do a conversion that Israel recognizes, then you can move there, but you have to leave every 6 months. This is what some people do. They just take a vacation every 6 months and then go back to Israel, and they can live in Israel for the 6 months. But, one of the problems I see doing that, first of all, it's very expensive to live in Israel. It's like California. And we moved to Texas for a reason, because California is very expensive. But the cost of living in Israel is very much like California. But second of all, we would have to suppress our faith, our full faith, which is we want to keep the commandments of God, but we also want to have the faith of Yeshua. And if we do make Aliyah as converts, we would have to hide who we really are. And I believe that at least for us, I can't speak for everyone, but that we couldn't fulfill our mission. We couldn't do the thing that we were sent to do, which is to be light for this specific tribe, for this specific community, for Yeshua, the community of Yeshua, those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the faith of Yeshua. So we have many enemies all over the place. These are spiritual type enemies, I believe, for our specific movement in our congregation. We also have, financial enemies, right? A lot of us are struggling to just survive. And sometimes we feel like, maybe we should just go ahead and take that job, where I have to work on Shabbat, or compromise here, compromise there. And these are the giants that we face in this world. There's all kinds, not to mention, of course, the people that want to kill us, like Iran, who were developing nuclear weapons, which is why Israel bombed them, which is why we should be on their side, because we want to protect the land of Israel. It's not perfect, but it's still ours to protect. Okay, not to just do whatever we want. We have enemies on every side. We are sent, and we may feel unqualified, but we are qualified. If you're here, if you're listening online, or if you're here in person, you are qualified. You're qualified because you have that faith. You have that desire to keep the commandments of God and hold to the faith of Yeshua. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.